It seems like the Republican and Democrat parties have been around forever. While their history has always been entangled, you would be surprised at how the Republican Party in particular arrived to hold the values it does now. Before we dive into today's video, we want to welcome you to our channel if this is your first time, and we hope you would stick around with us. And to our return subscribers, thank you for your continued support. A few disclaimers. The information in this video is based on historical documents and the information out there. We are not in any shape or form affiliated with any political party or trying to endorse them. Neither are we trying to discredit or create malicious content. Now let's get started. Everyone already knows Republican President Donald Trump had an affinity for comparing himself to the 16th President of the United States. So from Abraham Lincoln to Donald Trump, here is the Republican Party's fascinating history. The story of how the Republican Party, whose byname is Grand Old Party, or G.O.P for short, was formed starts all the way back in the 19th century. It wasn't until the 1870s that they acquired this acronym, but we're getting off topic. The party was founded in the year 1854, and it was formed as a coalition that fought tooth and nail to oppose the extension of slavery into Western territories. Even following the historical Civil War, the Republican Party also continued to fight for the rights of African Americans. Now, when it first came to be, the Democrat Party was also forming. America's founding fathers were starting to have divisions. Those who wanted a central government and a national financial system which supported George Washington and Alexander Hamilton broke off and became Federalists. On the other side, those who favored a more limited government, who also supported Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, became known as Republicans, or Jeffersonian Republicans. Later on, that name changed to Democratic Republicans. At this point, the Democratic Republican Party was so appealing that it had 4 candidates vying to win the 1824 presidential election. While Democrat Andrew Jackson won the popular vote, ultimately, it was John Quincy Adams who won. There was some severe conflict within the party. This led to further division in the party. They split into those who called themselves the Democrats and those who called themselves the Whig Party. The prelude to the legendary Abraham Lincoln is the two parties having violently different views over slavery. Democrats voted for it, encouraging it to expand to the western parts of the country. Meanwhile, the Republicans, well, they thought otherwise. Many people had left their respective parties, both Whigs and Democrats, and formed their own anti-slavery coalition. Enter the top hat donning Abraham Lincoln. A Republican came in, and while he didn't exactly sweep the elections, he won the presidency in 1860. Things were tension crazy following this. The northern and southern states' wildly different opinions on politics and slavery finally came to blows. In 1861, almost immediately after Lincoln's inauguration, the Civil War broke out. We'll spare you the gritty details and the numerous battles. Eventually, in 1863, Lincoln made a history-altering decision. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforward shall be free. By the time the war ended, the Republicans' powerful presence in Congress effectively abolished slavery by issuing the 13th Amendment. It should be noted that at this point, both the Republicans and the Democrats were vastly different from now. The southern states predominantly held extremely conservative views. They were also very anti-big business. The Northerners, most of which were Republicans, continued to fight for voting rights for African Americans. So, when did the shift occur? How did the Democratic Party, which was rooted in anti-big business, change its views, and vice versa? The shift started after the war. Then Republican values began to change. Improving the country's economy started to take a front seat. The northern states also started focusing more on industry and big business. By the turn of the century, 20th century Republicans generally included the wealthier classes. The roaring 20s came around, and the Republicans started thriving. That is, until the Great Depression of 1929. Things quickly went downhill for the Republicans. Republican President Herbert Hoover was met with backlash over the crisis. When the next election rolled around in '32, Democrat Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected president. It's here where we're going to take a break from the Republicans to recognize an overall shift in the country. With Roosevelt in the White House, he introduced the New Deal. To put it in a nutshell, the New Deal introduced improved minimum wage, improved infrastructure, and a bunch of social programs. Most people were content with the changes. However, the Southern Democrats, who always favored conservative political views, weren't on board with the liberal decisions. So they converted, joining the Republican Party instead. The status quo remained more or less relatively the same, with the Democrats holding the seat of power until the elections of 1980. That's when Republican President Ronald Reagan was elected. What was Reagan like? Before he was president, he was a world-renowned actor, having appeared in 53 movies. As a president, he made waves all over the world. He earned a reputation for being a Teflon president because any scandal or criticism rolled off his back and never affected his popularity. Under his politics, the U.S. experienced a new age in politics and economics, including lower tax and lowered inflation. Reagan spent a total of 2 terms in office, and his successor was none other than George H.W. Bush. What's next? Well, the Democrats and the Republicans basically took turns over who held the most power. In 2008, Democrat Barack Obama became the first African-American president. He stayed for 2 terms in office. In 2016 came the next election, which finally brings us to Donald Trump. As you're probably familiar with him, Trump was a famous businessman and reality star as a well-known Republican. In 2017, the Trump family moved into the White House, where over the next 4 years, he provided tax relief and worked on strengthening the country's borders to reduce undocumented immigrants. Where are the Republicans now? Well, according to The New Yorker, in just 4 years, the G.O.P, a powerful 167-year-old institution, has become the party of Donald Trump. This is because the Trump-era Republican Party does occupy a very different niche from the party of 1964. In other words, Trumpism might continue to thrive. What do you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Are there topics you would like us to talk about? Let us know. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.